This is Jennifer Hale, and you're listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. And, I should go.
The tangents as we continue all the way to episode 330 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. And it turns out going back to conventions is kind of like riding a bike, but with a lot more stuff. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. So let's start off like you were with a virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
Did we lose someone again?
Maybe.
This is Brittany and Troy.
There she is.
Yes. This is Holly from Wisconsin.
She's trying to force her way through. The Matrix keeps trying to pull her back in. And this is Rachel in Annapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Oh, hopefully everyone had a restful holiday.
Sorry. Thought I had something and it automatically. It's like, you should have been muted. You were muted. I didn't touch you.
Apparently not. Crazy noise says otherwise.
Yes.
So. Anyway,
The excitement that cons are back.
yeah, exactly. I know I don't necessarily sound that excited, but I'm tired. But we will get to that. First we need to do the news. I'm just a hot mess today. It's a good thing it was the holiday was yesterday, but because the holiday was on Sunday, we got today off work, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
My brain's a little scrambled, but in the best way possible. So yes, news. We need to do the news, and first up, some 10 o'clock news that's come over the wire in the last few hours.
Yes. Man.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So
I don't know this. I have not been on Facebook or anywhere today, so I have no idea what this is. I'm scared.
Yeah. Well, 10 o'clock news is never fun.
True.
But I would say, again, 91 years old is not anything to sneeze at. So acclaimed director and producer Richard Donner has passed away at the age of 91. So, he did so much especially in the 70s and 80s, the Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yep. The Lethal Weapon franchise.
Yeah. Although the drama around the Superman is so infamous, with the Donner cut and all those things. So DC's been fraught with issues since for a long time. But so he's done so much. So the Goonies, Steven Spielberg referred to him as the best Goonie. So yeah, and like Holly said, Lethal Weapon. So Yeah. He did a lot in his long career. So
Yeah. So if you haven't seen anything Michael Donner made, check the IMDb. You probably have.
Well, I would think that almost everybody has seen at the very least the first Christopher Reeve Superman, I would hope.
Yeah. Yes.
So
I have an odd memory of watching that in my Latin class in high school for some reason.
hey, yeah.
I think it was like a end of semester type thing.
Could be.
For holidays or something.
Could be. I mean, it's fairly family friendly, so
Mm-hmm.
and pretty iconic. And Gene Hackman just makes a really fun Lex Luthor. So.
Oh yes, he does.
Right?
So yeah, Richard Donner. Go watch something that he did in remembrance, I guess. It was just the 4th of July yesterday as we're recording this, so go watch Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah. So that's our 10 o'clock news. So let's move on to happier things like some convention news. Conventions are coming back. They're back. But looking ahead to Gen Con, which, as we have mentioned, has been temporarily moved this year from August to September, which on one hand is like, oh, that seems so far away, and on the other hand, it's July, so it's
less
not
than
that
2 months.
Yeah. It's not that far away in the grand scheme of things.
And it's going to go by like that.
Yes, exactly. So if you've been out of the loop, badge registration opened late May. But now at the end of last month, registration opened for the online version. So if you can't attend Gen Con in person, there is going to be online stuff available, plus the Gen Con pop-ups, which you can see the schedule for those on the website as well. Registration is now open for those. Housing opened last month, June 6th. There are still hotel rooms available. So if you want to stay downtown, you might want to get on that. And then the event catalog is now live, so you can go and look at it, start making your wish list, and then actual registration for those events, processing your wish list, opens at noon on July 11th. And yeah, I like how they're like, what, just be aware, we're scaling back this year, and the event catalog is still like 1,000 events. So
that's scaling down.
That's scaling back.
That's the definition of scaling down. Okay.
Yes. For Gen Con, yes.
I know Gen Con's one of the bigger ones, but that's just
wow. Mine. Boom.
It's still 4 days. So, you got to fill those 4 days with something. A lot of it's repetitive. When I say 1,000 events, it's like, like play this game, and it's several, offerings of playing this game over the course of 4 days. So it
Ah.
adds up.
Right.
So, but yeah, that is a thing that you probably want to get on if there's something you really, 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 really want to make sure that you get registered for. So, because even though it may be scaled back, the attendance might not be as hefty as it normally is. That does not mean that stuff is not going to fill up. So, in fact, stuff may fill up. I would think even more because they probably have to put smaller caps on things just for
Right.
Yeah.
for safety reasons. So,
Mhm.
so keep that in mind. Don't dawdle, because then stuff might not be available, and then you're just gonna be like kicking yourself, going.
And you're going to be a sad panda.
Mm-hmm.
Don't procrastinate on the Gen Con if you can help it. So there is that. And moving on to non-convention related news. I'm so happy this dropped like the same day that a very unfortunate incident of serendipity occurred after last week's episode.
Yeah. Mhm.
That I'm not going to get into, because if I get on that soapbox, then people are going to be like, no.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
I'm gonna save my energy for more pleasant things. But if you know, you know. So,
Yeah.
but the happy thing that happened to happen that same day was the announcement that we are getting a TV sequel on TV. Well, Amazon Prime, but you know what I mean.
Oh yes.
We're getting a sequel to Good Omens.
Like, this is one of those things, like I remember him, Neil Gaiman saying that they had planned a sequel.
Well, and they pulled stuff from the sequel that ended up in the series, in the miniseries.
Yeah, he put it in. Yes, and I thought, okay, that's gonna be it. I didn't, and then seriously, that's awesome! Can't wait. It's like one of those I was not expecting it, but I'm very, very happy this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I guess there's an upside to Prodigal Son getting canceled.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't worry, Michael is
Still
not
a little bitter about
unemployed.
that, but upside.
Yeah.
Someone kind of whip out from Angel to Siri to back to Angel.
Yeah. So it's like, the internet kind of imploded there for a while, because the news spread, and Neil Gaiman was like, I've wrote this blog post explaining, the how and the why and all of that, but people weren't bothering to read it. They were just commenting like, this is stupid. How can they do a sequel? There's not a second book, blah, 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 blah. And other people were like, did you read Neil's post? And they're like, no.
Read it, and the rest of us are like,
the TLD.
Shush, be happy.
I like Neil's
But I mean, even I've heard from some people, even after getting Neil's explanation, there's still people that are like, I'm not sure. And I'm like, why are you being so negative after the year that we've had?
Mm-hmm.
This
I'm
is
just like,
good.
Yes, this is good. I'm here for the
don't look a
ride.
gift horse in the mouth. Take
Uh-huh.
take the goodness that we are being given.
Yes. Now, if we could just figure out a way to get ourselves to Scotland.
Yeah, exactly. Really. Yeah. So if you know anyone that lives in Scotland, or you live in Scotland, or know anyone that could temporarily relocate to Scotland, starting in what, like August, September, something like that.
Yeah.
In a few months, Amazon is looking for people to work on the shoot in like a lot of different roles. So, but you essentially need to be able to go to Scotland, have your own transportation, and be able to stay there, forever. How long the shoot ends up taking. But yeah,
they
go
will
read.
train you.
Yeah. That's the thing. Is like you don't really need to know anything. They'll train you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why can't I temporarily move?
Yes.
Like, I don't know anything about filming or acting, well, anything. I know Good Omens. Like, I know that.
Sure, a little baptism by fire, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
Gopher.
wouldn't mind just being like, yeah, exactly. I wouldn't mind being a Gopher. I have training in that. I've done that before.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you know anyone that can apply, go do that, and go read Neil's posts and subsequent comments on the interwebs since then. The man is a treasure.
Yes, he is.
So, but
I am
definitely,
I still have my Twitter account.
Yeah, I am definitely one of those people that I am not going to take. I have complete faith and trust in Neil to do this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he and Terry were best friends, and he knows what Terry would have wanted, and he will make sure that those ideas that he and Terry were bantering around like 30 years ago when they first came up with the idea for the books in the first place, and we'll make sure that this is not Good Omens 2, the Neil Gaiman cut. There will be Terry Pratchett in there too.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And hopefully some more Queen music.
Of course.
Well, this is gonna be.
Some things won't change. So
Exactly.
And if anything else, this is once again reminding me that I really need to get on that Aziraphale cosplay.
I was wondering, is this going to spark it?
It's definitely going to be moving up the to-do list. So, but yeah, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. Okay.
A few of my work friends are just like, when they saw me post that on Facebook, it was like, when's that supposed to be coming out? And it's like, I don't know. This is just the announcement. They haven't started pre-production yet. They're like, oh, darn it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're doing like filming and stuff later this year, it's probably gonna be next year. So
that's what
I'm guessing probably about like the same time it was in 19. Like I'm assuming it's gonna be
probably
May in 22.
Yeah.
That's my
I'm
guess.
just like, man, I wish it would be dropping soon so we could all watch it, but them keeping that tight-lipped.
Yeah. Yeah. So they'll start once Neil is more free from doing stuff for the Sandman.
Oh, that's right.
That's
adaptation. So
he's got that nice side project too.
Yeah.
Which reminds me, I got to get back to that Audible.
Yeah.
Same.
Keep getting sidetracked by other stuff that's coming back.
Yeah. Oh, but yes, that's exciting. So there is that, and then of course a little bit of housekeeping. New episode of Gold Standard is out in the feeds. Our episode on the waterfront is out there for you to listen to and get caught up on, and we'll be doing this month's Patreon request in a couple of weeks. We're recording that, so you still got time to get on Patreon so that you can listen to that when it becomes available. So,
Yep.
Wink, wink, nudge,
Nudge,
nudge.
nudge.
Yep. And of course, as we were mentioning yesterday, was July the 4th. So since the last episode, we have reached a new month.
Yes, we have. And the book for the month for the Doctor Who Traveling the Vortex Book Club is we can call it a multi-master book called I Am the Master. Yes. I've been enjoying reading it, so. And for those of you who are still wondering, why not the River Song one? That hasn't come out in physical copy release yet. As soon as it hits physical copy, it will be put up on the pole.
We always want to make sure that the options are as widely available to everyone as possible.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that's why there's a little bit of a delay. Good things come to those who wait.
Yes. Exactly. So that is your housekeeping. And we don't have any feedback, so we shall move on to this week's main topic, which is, as of this past weekend, I went to my first convention since November of 2019.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's an insane long time for you.
Yeah, it's really wild talking to other people that are, pretty regular in the convention going, part of fandom. And, there are people like, yeah, I went to whatever in early 2020. And I'm like, I haven't been since late 2019. So it has been a long time for me, especially a multi-day convention. I haven't been to a multi-day convention since Gen Con of 2019. So almost 2 years. So InConJunction, which is, a local homegrown home run here in Indiana, celebrating 40 years actually this year of that particular convention. So that was kind of exciting. So this was my 5th time attending InConJunction, I think, is when I did the jogging memory. So, I'm not as seasoned as some of the people that attend who have been there since year one. But it was definitely the best choice for returning to conventions because it is, even without the having to scale back a little and change some things because of the pandemic and everything, because we're not in the clear yet, but we're getting there. A lot of people are vaccinated or in the process of getting vaccinated, so people's comfort level as far as being out in public and that sort of thing. Even with those adjustments, this convention is still very laid back, low key, not running around like crazy at a big convention center. You know, it takes place at a hotel, so you know, not a lot of ground to cover unless you're the con chair, Melissa, who we've had on the show ages ago. She was the chair for the convention this year, and she tweeted earlier today that according to her smartwatch, she logged 25 miles over the weekend, just running from point A to point B. But when you're the person in charge, that makes sense. It adds up. So yeah, I had a table again this year in the vendor hall. They limited the number of vendors so that they could put more space in between booths, which was, you know, kind of nice because like I've never had this much room before. Still manage to trip on things because I'm me. So, but this, you know, because of this being the return to conventions since before the pandemic, not only was I able to you know, promote our show, you know, the Fiveish Fangirls, but it also meant I was promoting Gold Standard. So that was fun. I got a small tabletop size sign for Gold Standard, just because in general space tends to be at a premium for these things. So just looking ahead to the future, I'm like, go with a smaller sign this time around, so that down the line this won't be an issue as far as space, because if I had two of those, like, you know, 6 foot tall floor signs for one for each show, that would take up some valuable space. But yeah, and I had business cards for both, so that was kind of fun. So, you know, I was talking to people and like introducing myself at panels, which I'll get to in a moment. You know, it was like, I'm a podcaster. I have 2 shows because I'm crazy. Like, what did you do over the pandemic? I started a 2nd show. But yeah, so it was fun to be able to promote both. Just gives me more to talk about. Yeah. So but and again, of course, I don't know what it is about this convention that I'm like, when it comes to panel sign up, I'm like, sign me up for all the things. And I think one year, I think my record was 7 in one. I did 7 over the course of 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a couple of years ago, because I was just looking at like my Facebook memories, and I think it may have been the last one that I tweeted or posted or whatever and said that I did 8, and I did 8 again this year.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm kind of I don't know what my issue. I don't know what the thing is. They're like, hey, you know, they're like put up like the list online, and they're like, hey, these panels could use some people on them, so that, you know, it's not one person sitting there talking to a room of people. And I'm just like, check all the boxes, sign me up for all the things. I don't. I've got a problem. I don't know. So
Rachel, there's worse problems to have.
That is true. That is very, very true. But once again, and I believe this is something that I have mentioned when talking about this convention specifically, is the thing is, when you're doing that many panels and you're tabling by yourself, when you're at panels, no one's at your table. So if somebody stops by, there's
can't
nobody
talk
there
to
to
them.
talk. Yeah, there's nobody there to talk to the people. So I know people stop by because I definitely left with less business cards than what I went with. So at least when people were stopping by, they were picking up business cards. So
Well, that's good.
yeah, that's a good thing. But yeah, I really need to I either need to have help so that somebody can man the table when I'm not there, or I really need to like rein myself in when it comes to signing up for stuff. But there were just so many good options, not including the 2 I submitted myself. So I mean, the 8 includes the 2 I submitted myself, but still, you know, I
You should have
apparently
like Chauncey, like be with you and like stop you when it gets a little too much.
Yeah, or something. Or like I'm gonna like, you know, I may need to have you guys like be my people to like keep me in check. So when InConJunction's coming around again next year, you can be like, Rachel,
4.
not 8, not 8.
Like, you like have like send
Compromise.
us a message
4.
every time you go on, and like you say, okay, this is where you stop. This is the
Yes.
last one.
Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of panels, let's discuss the ones I did. So the first one that I did, and really was the first one of the entire convention, was on Friday afternoon. And that was the pandemic lockdown, how we spent our time. And I did record some of these panels. Unfortunately, the audio is not necessarily the best because only one of the rooms that I did a panel in, they actually had the microphones set up ready to go. So that helped, at least as far as picking up my voice and the other people next to me on the panel. The audience, not so much. So I'll have clips that I will put in of some of the, I guess, best sounding audio that I could get for my recordings. So yeah, so you can at least hear some of how the panel went. But yeah, the pandemic lockdown, how we spent our time, which was the description in the program book was, what did you do during the time spent sheltering in place? Did you read any genre, can't speak, genre material? I've been speaking all weekend. Come share how you spent your time and if your science fiction and fantasy interests or collections played a role in any of that time.
Welcome to Indianapolis.
We're sorry you had to stay.
No, we just like to put out orange cones. Yes. Because
And orange barrel.
they think they look nice.
No, I thought we used them to keep the ground down.
Yeah.
They completely tore out the I-70 and I-65 north split, and so
It's the unofficial state bird of Indiana, the orange barrel.
Yep. I take it you have your own podcast.
Yes.
It says so on your shirt.
Yeah. I'm still working on the sleep part.
I at least recognize that and said, okay.
Well,
if I
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
And logically think I can get to the hotel from this spot. My question is, can I do the reverse?
we like to think of ourselves as the Hotel California.
And just my only.
It's exhausting.
the first thing that comes to mind in terms of moving forward with what might be considered dead space to work with is just how did people adapt? What was the first thing that you conceded to doing that then led to everything else?
I rearranged a lot of furniture.
Waking up.
There you go.
Replaced some things that had needed to be replaced. My husband and I, we combined our stuff when we got married, and it was all, your early 20-something college-year furniture. And slowly but surely we'd replace some of that, but once we were at home all of the time, we realized just how desperately we needed to upgrade some things.
Yep.
So we did some significant furniture rearranging and swapping out things. So
And that is what led you to branch out to podcasting?
Well, I've been podcasting for a very long time.
Oh.
My first show, the Fiveish Fangirls, we've been podcasting for 7 years.
The Fiveish?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we've been podcasting for 7 years, but in the process of doing that podcast and connecting with other people online, because that's the only way you could connect with people, I ended up starting a second show during the pandemic.
What was the topic of the second show?
So the second show is Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, and we're watching and reviewing every Academy Award winner for Best Picture in chronological order. And we've been doing that for slightly over a year.
Very good. Does that lead you to want to know more?
Oh yeah, because I've been watching a lot of the movies that are the Best Picture winner I'd never seen, but I also have making it a habit of watching some of its fellow nominees.
Some of its competition.
And even some of the movies that came out that year but didn't necessarily get nominated.
Right.
So that I have something to compare to of whether this movie actually deserve the Best Picture, and there are several out there that didn't.
Which best picture didn't deserve it?
The worst one I've seen so far that I just absolutely hated was How Green Was My Valley. I hated that movie.
How green was it?
Not at all.
Why do you think it won that year? Was it like everybody loved the actor or the director?
I think so. I think it was just one of those where...
Who was in it?
I don't remember. I think I've mentally blocked it out. I remember, I think Roddy McDowell was in it. I think that was one of his first movies. But other than that, so there have been some really good ones that I've discovered, but oh my God.
Hollywood seems to love movies about making movies. So how many of the Oscars have you seen so far, would you say, was about Hollywood itself?
Not that many, actually, because the year that Singing in the Rain came out, it didn't win. It didn't even get nominated. A movie called The Greatest Show on Earth about the circus, which is a Cecil B. DeMille movie, actually won. And An American in Paris had actually won the year before. And I was like, well, if they just waited a year, and Gene Kelly would have shown them a thing or two.
How Green Was My Valley, 1941. Roddy McDowell, directed by John Ford.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which John Ford has done better.
From a book, so
Yeah.
And Marina.
I'll tell you what, the lack of commute, this is a silver lining I did not realize was going to be a thing, because, my commute's not that long. It's 20 minutes, as long as traffic isn't stupid, from my front door to the parking lot at work. But not commuting and therefore not spending the gas, and not having to pay to park, because we have to pay to park, because I work for IU, they make us pay to park. And between not having that deducted from my paycheck and not having to pay to gas, I've paid off a student loan.
There you go.
And I'm working on paying off a second. So the zero interest on student loans really helped too, but still.
It was quite challenging. I was running sound and echoing of their breathing. Everybody sounded like Darth Vader on stage.
Yeah.
Finding the microphones to get things to sound halfway reasonable.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work when 12 people say they're Darth Vader and not their fathers. The thing that occurs to me is, how did the arts, specifically television, movies, and the like, reflect the pandemic? Did you see good or not so good representations of what had been going on in real life up on the screen?
I like some of the stuff that some of the creators managed to put together for like little miniature specials, like they did for the Parks and Rec, where they were all on a Zoom call so that all the actors they could justify being in different places.
See, but that kind of creativity was forced, but a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because of what they were forced to look at to make things work for them.
Yeah.
One show that I noticed was The Blacklist. Their final episode of the 7th season did not get in time. What happened was they had filmed about 3/4 of the show when the pandemic hit. Three-quarters of the final episode. And what they ended up doing was a mini, what would you call it, Mike? It was a mini comic almost representation.
Animated and sort of
animated
comic book style,
yes,
interspersed with the live action stuff, and it worked pretty well.
It worked very well for the story.
Yeah, it did.
So it was very unique. And then, you know, other shows like A Million Little Things has been just reflecting in restaurants and what they went through, and individuals and what they go through in those reflections of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if there were special shows out there that anybody took note of that might have given you a different slant, or just reinforced what you'd already seen in your everyday lives. All about how we can unseat the laughter and, you know, just make you not think about the heavier things you've got to think about in your life in daily terms. And so you've got two different dichotomy there. But there've got to be a whole list of things that go about their way of doing things differently than they did because of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Did your podcast change its form?
No, actually, no, because we've always been done all our stuff online because we're not all local to each other, so nothing changed because of the pandemic. We've had to change some things because people have had job changes and changed locations, but no, nothing. In fact, we actually added on top of me having now a second show, we spent almost a year with the Fiveish Fangirls on top of doing our regular show every week where we played D&D as a kind of a bonus thing. It ended up being bonus content, but we were going to play anyway, but we figured, what the heck, might as well record it.
Right. But was that germ of an idea proffered up because you had so much extra time on your hands?
Yeah, because one of my co-hosts, Chrissy, and her husband had already played, so they were seasoned, and her husband Jared is a DM, so he was doing, they're both librarians, and he was doing D&D for the library he works at, and the rest of us are like, oh yeah, that would be kind of fun to play Dungeons and Dragons, and Jared was like, yeah, I'll be your DM, and it taught us everything, because three of us had no idea. None of us had never played before, so we had to learn from scratch.
Have you watched Stranger Things?
Well, yeah. I mean, I knew the general gist of it, how it worked, but I never actually played it, so I didn't know,
By the way,
how to do like
back for a fourth season.
Yeah, how to do like, come up with a character and a backstory and all the attributes and everything. So, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and we played our campaign. Took about a year for us to do our campaign, and when we reached the end, we were like, yay. Especially because we all survived, because even though we were, 3 of us were
Well, now
newbies.
you spoiled it. Now I'm
Yeah.
not going to want to listen.
Barely survived.
Oh, okay.
We're 3 of us are newbies, and our DM thought that the way to finish out the campaign was with the Tomb of Horrors. If you ever played D&D, you know.
It's been way too long since I played.
It's like, here, newbies, let's do this infamous dungeon. Thankfully, he didn't make us speed run it. Audiobooks have been one of my big go-tos. I've read a lot. Air quotes. I've read a lot of books during the pandemic.
But is that just looking at the radio?
No.
Seeing the words stream out?
No, it's just
okay.
I got a library card, something I didn't have for my local library, which they've been a godsend as far as being able to get my hands on stuff. But it gave me, but my...
When you went to the library, did you see an uptick in activity?
No, actually, the library's been fairly quiet, although I'm in there like at least once a week, so I think I'm on a first name basis with all the library. So at least they know my face. They're like, hey, how you doing?
What all did you get from the library?
Well, I mean, it's helped me a lot with watching all those Oscar winners, those Best Picture winners, being able to get the DVDs from the library, especially being able to loan stuff out from other branches if my branch doesn't have it. But a lot of times with your library card, they give you access to a lot of digital stuff too. So like Overdrive, which is a lot of ebooks and audiobooks. So I've done a whole lot of audiobook listening because I don't have the patience to actually sit and read pages. I get bored. But you know, if I'm at like the gym or something, I can get my miles in on the treadmill while listening to a book.
And I think for a lot of us, it was the discussion was things that we watched and or read. A lot of people spending time with their pets, which was nice. You get to hear stories about people's cats and dogs and stuff. I did have, because I was like, during the pandemic, I started a second podcast and told them about Gold Standard, and they were like, what's the worst movie? What's the worst Best Picture winner? And I was like, or something along the lines of that, and I'm like, how green was my valley?
Valley.
That's easy
I can remember
enough.
you going on about that.
How green was my valley? Worst movie ever. So
I'm feeling most of the people like, I've never even heard of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you made it pretty much through all 15 seasons of a certain TV show.
Yeah. I was like, I watched all of ER, however many seasons that ended up being, and Supernatural. So a lot of binging of TV shows.
Waiting for the Marvel stuff to come out.
Exactly. Just biding my time until Marvel came back. So that was fun. It was a good way to kick off, everything. Like, hey, we're back. What have you been doing for the last year and a half? Essentially.
It reminds me of like in school, like, what did you do over your summer break?
A little bit. Little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, everybody's summer break was a year and a half long.
Oof.
Yep. So there was that. And then my next panel was one of the ones I submitted, which was actually a game show that I can't completely say that I came up with, because I took an idea off of a series that I had seen on YouTube and then made it my own. So thanks, random YouTube channel, for the inspiration. I actually came up with this like months, like early 2020, and built it. Came up with all the clips and everything, and built the whole thing, and then everything got canceled. So I'd even submitted it in the online thing for InConJunction. So it was sitting there just waiting to be approved for whenever it was able to happen. So then circle around to this year, and I'm getting into con crunch, like the week and a half before the convention. I'm like, okay, I need to start getting like my stuff together and all these things. And I'm like, well, I've gotten a new computer since I did the thing last year, so I need to make sure it works on this computer that I'm going to take with me. And I go.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Didn't you have some
go
problems
to
with the file transferring over or something? Or
no, it
formatting?
was gone.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. I couldn't remember.
It was completely, well, I say completely, it was 95% gone.
Ooh.
Yeah. I had the folder, and there were a handful of files in it, but the majority of it was completely gone. So I had to end up rebuilding almost the whole thing from scratch. Thankfully, I know what I'm doing, so
True.
but still, it's like that's time that I could have used elsewhere. So, but anyway, despite that technical hiccup, I'm calling it Name That Backwards Tune, because that's essentially what it is. Because I figured name that tune when you're talking about recognizable like theme songs from like movies and TV shows. I figured doing them just straightforward would be too easy.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let's take those clips and reverse them and make it a little harder.
Nice.
And that's exactly what I did. And I had 3 contestants that I literally, when I got to the panel room with my computer and got it hooked up and worked with the AV guy to make sure that the sound and everything worked. And then it was like slightly under 10 minutes till, and there was like nobody in the room. And I was like, well, this is going to really suck if nobody shows up. So I literally went out into the halls and the vendor hall like a town crier, making an announcement like, name that geeky tune, in the special programming at 4:00, come play my game. Come view my game show, win a prize. Eventually I got a small handful of people to show up, enough that I was able to get my 3 contestants from the audience, which was good. And it did. Since we've been home, I haven't really had a chance to test it out with like a group of people. So Chauncey's been my guinea pig, as far as like, like how does this sound? Are some of these recognizable? And he was able to get a good number of them, but then some of them he's like, I don't. And even some of them I knew he was going to get because they were from things like that he had not seen. But he was like, I get that that's like a song from something. So it was like, it doesn't sound like complete nonsense. Although some of them sound like either Japanese or Russian backwards, which is wild.
I want to hear these.
Yes. I wouldn't mind.
I'll have to figure out a way to like share it with you guys because it's in a PowerPoint, so I'm not exactly sure how I could. I guess I could just upload some of the clips that way you guys could hear them.
Cool, because I wouldn't mind trying to do this, as part of the, something for an episode.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how we would do that, to be honest with you.
True.
If anybody's got any good ideas, let us know. Because honestly, doing it in PowerPoint really, I don't think is the ideal. But I knew it would work because you don't need the internet for it. And I was like, I just need PowerPoint on my laptop. And that was fine, but it's not ideal as far as like the controls and everything, being able to play and hit pause and that sort of thing. But this at least gave me an opportunity to do it with actual people and see where I need to make some changes.
Yeah.
So they were also my guinea pigs. And everybody, both the people that played it and the people in the audience were like, yeah, that was fun. It was good. You made my brain hurt on a few of those, making me really think. So a lot of people are like, well, if you played that frontwards, I would have known exactly what it was. I'm like, that's the point. I want you to watch.
I wanted to make it a little tougher.
Exactly.
A little more of a challenge. Make the brain work a little more.
Yes.
Exactly. So, yeah. So I'll be tweaking it and refining it so that I can try it again next year, obviously with different clips, because change it up. And thankfully, there's a lot of options out there. So it's not that I'm going to be hurting for content. But yeah, so that was fun. I enjoyed doing that. And then after that, I did my other panel that I submitted that I do pretty much every year, Podcasting 101. Pretty straightforward, I think.
This approach to that is really admirable, and I would like to try to elevate that aspect. When I'm talking into the video, maybe I need to do something more scripted.
Yeah, I would say that some of the ones like that where, like, especially where they're very talking head educational, that's a very loose term, but at least the ones that I listen to, they tend to be more scripted. Even if it's not just the one person talking, even if they've got other people, they have a pretty tight script that they follow. Like, I'll say the one, what's its name? Cautionary Tales is a good one. It's just one guy, but he tells a story, and every now and then they have in like little vignettes where they'll have people playing people and have some sound effects, but it's not like necessarily the entire podcast, but it's obvious scripted. Even the guy narrating. Behind the Bastards is another one where he usually has, his producer talks with him a lot, usually try to get him to behave, because he'll go off the rails. But he almost always has a guest or two, but it's still informational, but it's very obvious that he's got a script because he does a lot of research talking about things. So
from a setup, I've got to the situation where I've mostly been doing what I do in an apartment building, which is next to a very busy road. And although I don't hear it often, every now and then I will hear the traffic being picked up in the mic. So I'm working on right now actually getting an acoustic booth.
yeah.
And try to get rid of those kinds of aspects. But from a technical standpoint, what kind of mic do you use? Do you all take it all out? I mean, the whole bunch of thing. I looked into it a little bit. And started going into the direction of this is really kind of tough. simple.
Yeah, I use me personally, I use a combination of earphones with microphone attached to it, which it's a really nice set. They're fairly expensive. They're by Jabra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Although I don't think they make one. I'm gonna have to jimmy rig some sort of like pop filter. Because it's like even I can hear like the air on the microphone sometimes. So
Yeah, I've put the mic up like this.
Really, I have a Logitech headset.
yeah,
Microphones that I will pick up by breathing, so I have a tendency to, unless I really pay attention to what I'm doing
yeah,
when I'm speaking,
yeah.
it comes off really easily, just bother.
Yeah. Well, nobody likes the sound of their own voice.
That could also be where you're.
I'm actually breathing and the
Yeah.
microphone is picking it up.
Yeah.
That could also be where your mic is positioned when you're talking. On our Go stuff, like what we have setting in our booth right now, we use the Audio Technica's broadcaster mics, and if you sit it to where you think that okay, I can hear everything, it sounds good, then you do pick up all the breath. But if you set it like out here, just high enough where you're talking to it, and you have everything pumped just enough, you get really good clean audio, and you don't hear the things. It's all about where you.
Interesting, because I hadn't
place it.
considered putting it out further. I kept it low, but I was still picking up.
Yeah, a decent quality microphone. A lot of people don't realize this. You don't have to be looking. It doesn't have to be like you're gonna lick it while using it. I've been in like round table situations, and the people are like right up on the mic. I'm like, you don't need to do that with that type of mic. You can sit like a normal person, but just the people that aren't familiar with using microphones, they all just assume that they have to like be shoving it down their gullet, and it's like, no, that's not necessary.
They're talking to the wrong side of it, like some condenser mic. I'm not here to evangelize Podbean, but it's the only one I know real well. So
That's what I was thinking. That's what I wanted to say about the speakers. Like that's the one that I'm really familiar with right now.
Yeah, we use Libsyn.
Yeah, that one's been around a long time.
Yeah, which that was when we were looking. That was the one that came highly recommended when I asked around, and that's the one we've been using for almost 7 years because we weren't using any sort of hosting for the first 6 months or so because we wanted to see how it went first, and see if something we actually wanted to start putting money into for like hosting and stuff. But yeah, so we joined Libsyn, and knock on wood, 6.5 years of using them, we've never had an issue. Like no broken downloads or anything, and they're built in, and they've expanded as more and more platforms have started taking on podcasts as a medium. So now you just go into your account and you're like, hey, do you want to be on iHeartRadio? Press this button and it just does it. They just submit all the information that platform needs on your behalf, so you don't have to worry about like the copying, pasting, and figuring out forms and all those things. So
As far as
we usually get, at least a couple of people that show up for that one that have questions about hosting and equipment and that sort of thing. Because there's always people every year that are like, I thought about starting a podcast. I have questions. I will help answer those questions. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. Podcasting 101. And then we had the opening ceremonies. So that was, again, kind of nice to just have everybody in the main programming area and, be like, hey, we're here together. Yay! Kermit flail. And then my last panel of Friday was the end of the 13th Doctor ? So it's give both the panelists and the audience an opportunity to talk about Jodie Whittaker's run as the Doctor, and it's like, happy, upset, indifferent. What did you like? What did you didn't like? What would you like to see changed? That sort of thing. And of course we have, if you've listened to any of our recaps of since since we started, whenever Doctor Who is on, then you've heard our opinion on Jodie as the Doctor. So I like her as the Doctor. I think Chris Chibnall is, he's obviously a decent scriptwriter with the right story and kind of genre, because he did Broadchurch, and Broadchurch is great. It's it's amazing. But Broadchurch is like a completely different animal than Doctor Who as far as genre is concerned. And I think that's where I just think Chibnall is not necessarily in his wheelhouse with Doctor Who, I think. But that's just my opinion. So, but anyway, that was a interesting conversation at the very least, and everybody was nice. So that's the one thing I do like about this convention is, you've had some of these different panels like that where people are giving their opinion, and even though there's
go wrong.
Yeah, that can go wrong really easily, but that's not been the case that I've ever experienced. So
That's good.
Everybody has been respectful of other people's opinions, even if they're not the same opinion. So I will commend the InConJunction fans for that. So that was Friday. So then I went home and fell asleep. And then came back Saturday morning for my first panel of that day, which was the MCU 2021 and beyond. And this one, we went over our allotted time and probably would have kept on going if there hadn't been something else scheduled.
I'm honestly not surprised.
Not like that.
Yeah.
But even the way that they did it in the show, you had empathy for him as a person because he was flawed. He was trying. They put him in a blender and they put him in a situation that he just wasn't going to win.
Succeeded.
Yeah.
He just couldn't.
No,
and
he couldn't measure up.
No.
The very
Yeah.
first rebound to putting on the cap suit was not going to go well. It just wasn't.
And that was
I thoroughly enjoyed watching him get his ass kicked by the Dora Milaje. You know?
When you said, they took me down, they weren't even super soldiers. I mean, these were these were three women highly trained as they were with vibranium
Staffs.
spears.
Yeah.
And it's like they handled him.
Yeah.
And the shield.
Yeah.
And when the one flipped the shield back up on her arm, what you gonna do now?
Yeah.
And he's like, that's what, and it led him to take the serum, and it led him to realize, that, he needed to be more, but it also, his mind was kind of twisted at that point over the.
It did exactly what Erskine said in Captain America, and
Right.
it enhances what's already there.
Right, and he had a lot of pent up anger and fear, and he had PTSD.
Yeah.
They showed that.
Yeah.
It was a real thing. He talked to Lamar the things they had us do over there.
Yeah.
When we and that's something that's real. I've never seen combat. I'm a veteran, but I've never seen combat. But the thing is that when you talk to people who are veterans who have seen combat, war is hell. It's horrible. There's so many things that
It changes you.
Yeah, it changes you, and you know, people who have not experienced that, you know, are never going to really truly understand that. And that's something that they dealt with in this show, which was another kudos to them to handle it the way that they did.
They handled so many issues so well.
Yes.
I mean, taking on the Truth comic in Isaiah Bradley.
Yes.
John Walker's issues, and he was supposed to be an asshole, and he was an asshole.
Yeah.
And to get the U.S. agent suit and be an asshole and yet be a good guy, the mixture was spot on.
Right.
Just wonderful.
Right, and I think that part of that has to do with the charisma of Wyatt.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
he definitely has some charm.
Casting
some
was-
charm with that he probably picked up from both.
Yeah, so the apple probably hasn't fallen far from the tree, I think.
Yeah.
Casting was spectacular.
Yeah.
But
It
did,
always is.
I don't know if it's still the same person. I know it was for the longest time that Marvel was using the same like casting person,
Oh,
that
yeah.
head of casting. I don't know if she still is the person, but kudos to their casting people
Yeah.
just since the beginning.
Yeah.
They've yet to cast anybody where I'm like, no.
right.
Exactly. You
They've
get-
just
you get
been
some
on
people
the
that
nose.
maybe aren't as highly valued or prized
Right.
as others, and that's an individual impression we all have to make for ourselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they're casting, I mean, everyone from Peter Parker to Tony,
Yeah.
Iron Man, it's just across the board.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice in that series that the camera lingered on Lamar after he hit that pillar a little bit longer than, and so we know the twins aren't dead.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
They called.
They're out there somewhere.
Yep.
They're out there somewhere, and we've seen them age from babies to.
They did. I mean, it was.
teens.
Yeah, I would say it was. I think it was a genius way to do that because one, it plays into that trope that we see on sitcom where
Yes.
somebody has a baby and then like the next season they're like getting their driver's license. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So, but then it makes them the right age for Young Avengers.
And Queens in the 90s/aughts eras.
Was set up very much like the living room.
Oh, that was the Dick Van Dyke Show.
And that
Yeah.
was very
With the
deliberate,
ottoman and
yes.
everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the kitchen.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
the
Definitely
kitchen.
the kitchen.
And that set, they used the same set for every era. They just redressed it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's,
Well, and that's what sitcoms did.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but the fact that they were able to build this like one set,
Yeah.
have their house layout,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they
face
just had
it.
to
Yeah.
reface it. Other than the stairs had to be,
The stairs
Yeah.
went
Moved.
back to Brady Bunch.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So-
And it's interesting that how they explain why. When they explain why those episodes were based off of sitcoms throughout the decades or whatnot, that explanation, when it was first revealed, I was like, I'll be damned.
Yeah.
But
That spoke to me as someone who did not have a lot of friends when I was a kid. I spent my childhood.
In
I
front
grew
of the TV.
I grew up in front of the TV, so
Right.
I would
I did
I would have
too.
done the same thing.
here.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Same here.
Of course, my episodes of choice series of choice would have been Batman, 1966
Oh, yeah.
series.
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk, Steve, the $6 Million Man.
Yep.
Wonder Woman, and then
Bionic
the
Woman.
A-Team, Bionic Woman, and then the A-Team and Knight Rider.
All the-
That'd be an interesting universe to base things off of.
Well, that was just me throughout my childhood.
Well, we've had David Hasselhoff already.
Yeah.
Power Rangers, VR Troopers, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, all that jazz is a totally different movie.
Yeah.
So how does, asking the audience, what are your highlights from the MCU thus far, and what are you most interested in
Looking forward to.
coming out?
what I'm most looking forward to. Go.
Like we were supposed to have an hour, and then there was a half-hour break between that and the next event. So it's not like we went over and we're holding up the other people, but even then, it was like we could have just kept going and going and going, and talking about the. Oh my goodness!
Looks like if compared, like thinking about like all episodes that dealt with the MCU. That's
oh yeah, I mean when we can spend 2.5 hours talking about these 6 episodes of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, you know. It's like, it's only 6 episodes. No, but you don't understand. This is 6 episodes in the MCU, and therefore
exactly
chock full of stuff.
This is like 5 movies.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, that was a lively discussion to say the least, and everybody's very excited about what's coming down the pipeline. So you know, the stuff that we know is coming, and even the stuff that we don't know is coming, or at least the stuff that's not scheduled. We know is coming, but isn't like with a year next to it, just like this is coming eventually. So
I find speculating like, ooh, this is gonna happen, or this is not gonna happen, and that's always fun.
Yeah,
almost worth the wait.
Yeah.
Yes. And then my panel after that was the best thing ever, which is the official description, because this is not one that I submitted, but the official description in the program book is, we're known for our infamous worst of series, but after the year everyone had last year, we figure, what the heck, let's talk about our favorite things. What sparks joy in your heart? What got you through 2020? Which really was not so much a panel, more just us sitting around in the room just talking and writing on construction paper, because Becky ended up bringing a stack of construction paper and Sharpies, and she's like, well, I was going to pass this around to whoever showed up, and you could like write like your favorite things, or like the things that helped get you through the pandemic, and we could, like, I thought, she was like, well, we can maybe post them out in like the lobby or something, and people can add to it, so we can have this wall of like colorful paper of like, you know, happy thoughts, and that sort of thing. So really we just sat and talked about this, that, and the other thing, because there was really just me and the other 2 panelists and one of the panelists' roommates, and the guy doing the photography for the convention. So we really just kind of shot the breeze and wrote you know, things on our construction paper, and people were like, naps and dogs and chocolate, you know, all sorts of things. So and there are pictures. They did end up putting them out on a table in the lobby, and people could add to them. There's some pictures of them on the InConJunction Facebook page, so you can go see those. But then I ended up cutting out a little early from that one, because I was getting hungry. It was getting to lunchtime, and I was like, I need to eat before my next panel, which was at 1, which was what's in your collection. So talking about our nerdy collections of things, which was quite interesting to hear about what things people focus on. Like, some people are like, I collect, you know, art, but from of certain characters, or I collect art from a certain artist, or, you know, a certain number of artists, because I really like this style, and all sorts of, and like unique things, and not necessarily like pop culture related. Like one of the gals, the one gal, that was on the panel, T. Lee Harris, she's an author, but she's really big into ancient Egypt, so she collects cat figurines and cat statues. So that's one of the things that she likes to collect, is like the sort of thing that would be put in like a tomb in a pyramid. those sorts of things. So that was really cool. There was one thing, yeah, I think the coolest thing, and the guy actually brought it with him, because it's actually functional for him. Like it's like if you've watched enough TV shows and books and stuff, I think most people know what a sword cane is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, unless you're Lucius Malfoy, in that case, it's a wand cane, where he's got a cane, but the top of it pulls out, and his wand his wand is part of it. So this guy, his cane is a really nice looking one. It's wood, it's got all this carving on it. It's got this really nice golden brass handle ball, at the top of it that you grab onto, but you open it and pull out the inside, and then you can screw it back together, and it's a pool cue.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Isn't it? And like part of the brass ball comes off, and there's a rubber ball underneath, so you can like set it up against like a pool table. You don't have to worry about it like rolling away from you, because of the rubber, it sticks to the ground, so you can prop it up and you don't have to worry about it like falling over and getting damaged and stuff. It was really cool. So
that is, that makes perfect sense, but I would never have thought to do something like that. Like, yeah, I've heard of sword canes and stuff like that, but a pool cue?
Yeah. It was really cool. And then after that panel, I was just at my table in the vendor hall the rest of the day. And then when the vendor hall closed up for the day, I had like half an hour ish to kill, so I just found an outlet and plugged my phone in, let it charge for a little bit, and then at 7:00 was the masquerade, aka the cosplay contest, but they call it a masquerade because that just sounds fancier. And I usually watch, but this year I decided to enter, because on Saturday I was cosplaying my Time Buster. Which I have not worn since November of 2019, when I was at Louisville, where I got to meet Christopher Eccleston. So it had been a long time since the old Time Buster had been busted out. So I'd signed up for the masquerade earlier in the day. And then when it was time for us to go line up, they told us where to go, and they put us in the order that the judges had determined. I think it was just the order that we entered, I think, was determined what order that we went in. Funnily enough, I was number 6.
Nice.
I know. I was like, I'd like to think I played it that way, but I didn't. So we had a decent sized group, mostly adults, but we did have a few kids enter in the kids category. So that was pretty awesome. And the gal that won, her costume was pretty awesome, because hers was actually 2 in 1. Because she starts out dressed as Tika from Moana, so all fire and everything. And then she gets she poses and does whatever she does as Tika, but then she can peel that off, and underneath she's Tafiti.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So she just makes that transformation from Tika to Tafiti. So that was pretty cool. And I didn't even realize either, because like I was standing next to her for a while when we were waiting too, and afterwards I'm like, you had a secret underneath there. So yeah, I think she definitely deserved to win for that. That being said, I tied for second.
Nice.
I tied with a gal who was dressed as a character from Five Nights at Freddy's that I don't know. So I know what Five Nights at Freddy's is. I got the gist of it. I don't know the.
I was gonna say, I know it's a
characters,
video
so.
game, and I know like what like the design of, but I couldn't name anybody.
Yeah. But she made it all. She also made that all herself out of fabric and duct tape and all sorts of things. So.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. So, and I was excited. They're like, we have a tie for second. I'm like, ooh, that's cool. And they were like, yeah, these two got exactly the same score, and we just couldn't figure out a way to do a tiebreaker, so we just said, screw it, they both get a prize. So like, thanks, judges. So I got a gift card to Joann's. So yay, buy more things for more cosplays that I will find time to make in some century. So that was fun. And I got a lot of compliments on my Time Buster. I included with my stage presentation my own Who-niverse twist on the commercial from the Ghostbusters movie. Yeah. The TV commercial. So you can watch the masquerade on the InConJunction Facebook page. So if you want, you can watch the entire thing, or you can if you just want to see me, skip ahead to the 7-minute mark and hear my little blurb. But it's not super long. We had like a dozen contestants, I think, at most, so it wouldn't take you very long to watch the entire thing. And go and watch and see all the others. So, because I have been on both sides in these things, both as a contestant and as a judge, and regardless of whether you're a new person to cosplay or a seasoned veteran, really on both sides, being judged and doing the judging, it is not easy. I don't care who you are. Yeah. So, big kudos to everybody that decided to put themselves out there like that. So that was a fun way to end my Saturday. And then Sunday, which was the 4th of July, was my last panel, which was, how did that ending work for you?
Theme of the movie, what it had to say.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking to everybody before I walked in.
Well, I was just,
you introduced
no, not really, but I mean,
okay.
I think most everybody's been in one of my other panels, so they know who I am, but for those
and we've done a
this
couple
may
of
be
panels together.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. In case you haven't, or you partied too hard last night. I'm Rachel Friend. I'm a podcaster and cosplayer. I like to call myself a professional nerd. But yeah, I'm a fan of things like the MCU and Star Wars and a lot of that stuff. But like the CWDC universe, I gave up on a long time ago because it was just way too soap opera-y for my taste. So
Got a little bit.
After so many episodes of like Arrow, I felt like I needed like a Percocet or something, an upper of some sort, because I was just always so depressed. So,
I consider myself 12 different kinds of nerd. Because I'm a fan of so many things that are out there. Anyway, thought we'd get into it with.
Do you want a microphone?
no,
Okay. I'm just venturing on the
we don't need it. The person after us might, so you might as well get it warmed up, I guess.
Hey, Ricky.
Hello.
Because I'm pretty sure the person after us probably needs it. I'm assuming pub trivia will require it.
Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess we could start with the big elephant in the room, Supernatural.
Okay. It's a big elephant.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I enjoyed so much of that series.
Yeah.
When it came to the end, it had me crying my eyes out.
Yeah. Not for me. Well, maybe tears of frustration.
How did they end it? Because I gave up after they brought the one kid back from hell, you know.
Which time? Which kid?
Which kid? Which time?
Probably the first time.
Are you mean like hell? You mean purgatory? You mean be more specific. So obviously we're going to get into spoiler territory here, because that's kind of what endings are.
Ending,
yeah.
But the ending happened so long ago. I mean, I just caught up this last week.
Yeah.
But the ending happened last
fall.
So
yeah. But
Did they kill both of them, or?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Dean died young.
Dean died in battle.
Yes.
The way almost you expect him to.
Yeah, stupidly.
Yeah.
They were fighting vampires, and he ended up getting impaled by a piece of rebar.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah.
In
the
heart, essentially. So, yeah.
After they defeat God.
Yes, after they defeat God, and then
they did defeat God.
Adam becomes a new god. So Dean dies and goes off to
Jack.
Oh, Jack. Jack becomes
the new god.
Yeah, Jack becomes
And,
a new god.
He said simply not put himself out there in
So he's
Morning
social
sunshine.
media.
Yeah, but either way, Sam and Dean get separated because Dean dies. And so they end up having this. Dean goes to the afterlife, which is essentially heaven, where he has a place to live. He sees Bobby, the Impala. He's got his version of Baby there. And goes for a very long drive to a very sappy version of Carry On My Wayward Son.
Yes.
Well, we get a montage of Sam living a very long life, getting married, having a kid, growing, naming him Dean, growing to be a very old man and dying peacefully, and then they're reunited in heaven. The end. Yeah. Which sucked. Really, really sucked. But I can't, as much as I hated it, I really can't fault them because they were severely impacted by COVID. And the problem is the original ending was going to be like this whole big reunion. Like they would go to heaven and like their parents would be there, Bobby would be there, all these people that we have known was going to be this great big, Charlie, all these people, it's going to be this great reunion in heaven. Yeah. And because they shoot in Vancouver, anybody who was going to come to shoot would have had to go to Canada, quarantine for 2 weeks first.
Yeah.
And then go film, and then when they go home back to wherever they are, the United States or whatever, they would again have to quarantine for 2 weeks, which meant automatically 4 weeks of them just being quarantined by themselves and separated from their families.
COVID sucks.
Yeah. So they as much as they really wanted the people to be able to come, that whole having to quarantine for 2 weeks on both ends of travel just severely limited who could come back to Vancouver to film. So really it was our two main leads and Bobby. So
technically work around that though. I mean, shoot them at green screen wherever they were and put them in as imagey, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
They did do the alternative, which was small recompense, but they mentioned their parents were up the road in their own little house.
Yeah, and Cass had helped Jack build the new heaven, so it's like apparently Cass was not stuck in super hell, angel super hell.
Right.
So, but yeah, it was.
I didn't mind the ending, but
just
now that
the
you mentioned
the pandemic just really screwed us over.
What I was really looking forward to was seeing a regathering of all the main characters in some form or another.
Yeah.
And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I can see where disappointing.
Yeah. Yeah, so screw you, pandemic. But now we're getting a prequel, so...
We're getting a prequel?
Yes.
Ah,
yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. That was just
details.
Well, that's about all we've got. Is there's going to be a prequel series called The Winchesters, essentially. So I think it's going to follow John and Mary. I think.
That seems to be the rage these days. Prequels. You had one for them. You had one for.
But
Game of
Jared
Thrones
and his wife are
yeah, because of course
spearheading it. So.
Material that's with
Jared Padalecki?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's not Jared.
Was it Jared?
Jensen is doing
Oh,
it, and
Jen.
then Jared wasn't involved, and there's.
Oh yeah.
and then they canceled Firefly. So I mean, go figure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh yeah. I have issues with Fox too. Even now, Fox
Who
is.
doesn't?
Yeah, Fox unfortunately has killed one of my favorite shows, so it is ended unless it gets picked up, unless it gets like a Lucifer type thing where somebody picks it up. So, but that's the series Prodigal Son, which only got 2 seasons, and again got screwed because of the pandemic as far as production was concerned, but it was such a good show for being on the surface seeming to be just another cop crime drama type, Criminal Minds type thing. But they did such a good job about subverting a lot of the tropes that you see in TV shows like that. And the fact that, you've got Michael Sheen in there too, whom I love, playing, this serial killer. So, but yeah, currently it's been canceled, and the ending was just like
blah.
No, it wasn't blah. They left us with a cliffhanger.
Oh, okay. Well, that's no good.
So, the little fandom that we have, there's a Prodigal Son Reddit, and the very, numbers in there. Are trying very, very hard to campaign to get somebody to pick it up. And I know the showrunners are trying to find somebody to take it, but so far they haven't gotten any.
Was that the cliffhanger where the doctor from the prison stabbed the dad, or what was that? I can't remember.
That's his son.
The son.
Yeah.
Well, no, the dad, the serial killer dad.
Yeah.
Wasn't he, the doctor had taken him out?
Well, yeah, she'd kidnapped him, Catherine Zeta-Jones.
And the son stabbed him.
Yeah. In self-defense, honestly. That was in self-defense. But yeah, it's like, is Martin dead? Is he gonna live? And they've we've got ideas for Martin Whitley's character, regardless of what happens to him, he's gonna have a place. And it's like, we just, one more season. When you get shows like that, I think, you need, I think, 3 seasons minimum, I think.
Right.
Because you really get your first season to introduce all your characters, and then second is really getting into plot. But yeah,
It's like The Pretender.
Yeah.
And it.
Yeah, that's a show I like.
The same thing on a cliffhanger, and it needed another season.
Yeah,
It
just
really did.
one more is all we need.
Right.
Yeah.
Other door. Yeah. So, does any and that 2 seasons and stuck in limbo, probably dead, and Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Anybody watch that?
John, are you awake?
I had some coffee. I mean, you know, I was letting them talk.
Yeah.
We hadn't introduced me yet, so I just wanted.
Everybody knows you, don't they?
Well, I
Your-
think they do. Maybe you know who I
Your
am?
reputation precedes you.
Do you know who I am? Yes, you should, and I'm going to tell you. My name is John F. Allen. I'm a speculative fiction author, and you should be reading my work.
Okay, well, there you go.
There you go.
All right, so now that all these.
See, this is what happens when you come in late.
Well, I forgot. I thought we were in the panel
the
room,
other room.
so I went over there, and then I saw a friend I hadn't seen in a year, and we caught up, and so then.
You saw something? You saw somebody you knew at a convention?
It's strange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Too strange.
Right. Oh, there's somebody else coming.
Yay!
Another early morning person.
Slowly but surely, the villagers are awakening.
Yes. No pitchforks.
Yeah. Too early for that.
She's got broomsticks.
Boomsticks.
Boomstick.
Boomsticks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
See?
What's the next show that was on our radar?
Arrow.
We've already discussed how the Arrowverse.
See, I'm so late. I'm sorry.
Everybody asleep.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the way Arrow ended. Just on a personal note.
I liked the idea of that follow-up show.
That would have been good.
Yeah,
But I didn't like him becoming the Spectre, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they did that in the comics with Green Lantern, and I was like, why? But the spinoff show set in the near future, that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah. What was it? It was going to be.
Arrow and Green Arrow and the Canaries.
No, it was just going to be the something in the Black Canaries.
And they actually had potential in that to introduce a version of the Huntress.
Right.
That would have been really cool. That could have been, she could have been like an anti-hero that they sometimes teamed up with, and sometimes they were after her, and she would have been a foil, and all that kind of stuff. But DC screwed the pooch, dropped the ball, kicked the can.
Where I think they dropped the ball is they were doing all these crossovers each year with the Arrowverse, and yet they're not willing to put them out on DVD as their own individual thing, and they should be.
And keep going. They formed a Justice League, and
Yes.
they were too scared to make a Justice League. If they had a Justice League TV show, do you know how many people would tune into that? A CW Justice League show? I mean, you've got Tyler Hoechlin's Superman, you've got the Batwoman, you've got Black Lightning, you've got John Jones, and if they had made Diggle a Green Lantern, could you imagine that? And then they brought Ray Palmer back as the Atom. You've got all of those characters together.
Pretty well established.
Right, and all they had to do was make an annual event. It would be like a 4-part miniseries every year that focused on them coming together.
Like they did with Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yes. The Crisis was so well done from a couple of standpoints, and yet they're unwilling to market it and put it on DVD. I would have loved to have had that in my collection.
Right, and now they have a new Earth 2 with Stargirl and the
Right.
new Justice Society.
That's coming out this summer.
Yes, they could have had a crossover like they did in the comics, annual crossover that come together, the two worlds, and they had to fight some, larger than life gathering of villains and things like that. That's what I would have liked to have seen, but did they give it to us?
Nope.
The CW has a habit of chickening out, though. I mean, look at Smallville. How many people did they introduce? They introduced the Flash, they introduced the Canary, they introduced all these superheroes, and they didn't do anything with them because they were chicken.
Yep. Or they, people will be confused with the DCEU. No, they won't. If you see Tyler Hoechlin and Henry Cavill standing next to each other, you're going to know the difference. Trust me.
Yep. He's pretty good in Superman and Lois.
I mean, that's like Superman and his little brother. I mean, come on. You're going to know the difference. You're going to know that is he supposed to be this? No, jackass. He's not the same. Can't you tell?
The next one that comes to mind is the Marvel TV shows and how you felt about the ending, but the whole thing of WandaVision.
Well, even before that, one that had ended last year was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, that's right.
So,
you know what?
And I was actually happy with that.
I liked that. But the only thing that I wish that they had did was to integrate those characters or hopefully will start to integrate those characters
into
back
the MCU.
into the main timeline. Because, I mean, God, I can't think of his name. The guy with the axe gun.
Oh, Mac.
And
Shotgun axe.
Right, and his girlfriend.
Yo-Yo.
Yo-Yo. Yeah, I mean, could you imagine like a mini-series with them, back-to-back spy, ham-fisted adventure? I mean, come on. People would be chomping at the bit for stuff like that. I mean, just to see Coulson just scare the hell out of everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, could you imagine Thor seeing Coulson? Son of Cole!
Yes.
You live! I mean, verily, and then he picks him up,
Yeah.
like a little baby, and,
Except Thor, then you'd have to explain to Thor that that's not Coulson.
Right, and he would...
The Coulson that we know and love and sacrificed himself at the battle in New York is definitively dead.
Right.
The Coulson that's running around now is an LMD.
Right.
So.
And then he'd have to get crushed all over again, the big guy. But that would be, bittersweet.
But I mean, he's got all Coulson's memories. So.
Right. Well,
which is fine by me.
Right.
How did people feel about the end of the MCU?
What, as far as like Endgame?
Yeah.
Like that Phase 3 or whatever. Yeah.
End of Phase 3.
I mean, going now into Phase 4, 2 of my 3 mains are technically dead. So, because I mean, like I said, the Coulson that we know and love and grew, got to know since the first Iron Man is technically dead. And then Tony Stark is dead too. So now I only have Doctor Strange.
Well, but that's the next big movie.
Yeah.
After Black Widow.
Yeah.
So I'm greedy. I'm greedy. I wanted to
like
see
my
more.
mains, I keep killing them off after like 10, 15 years, but still,
I wanted to see more Steve Rogers Cap. I wanted to see more RDJ Iron Man. I wanted to see more Scarlet Black Widow. But they did it in a way that was dignified. I think that and,
they did.
And
they did Tony
more.
justice with the way they did it.
The idea is leave him wanting more as you move on to your next series of events.
Yeah.
Right.
And passing on the torch to a younger generation of heroes.
Young Avengers is coming. And
Right.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I love Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, I mean, he's getting up there in years, so.
Yeah, but he still looks good though.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I would have been happy just to have like Tony set aside Iron Man and just be like the financial guy.
Right.
on the side. Because he was anyway. He was paying for everything anyway.
Right, yeah.
And mentor Riri Williams.
Yeah.
Right, and be astonished by her brilliance.
Yeah, but somebody, I mean, really, to wrap up the whole like infinity thing with Thanos, somebody was going to have to pay the ultimate sacrifice. And I knew going into it, it was either going to be Steve or Tony. And, you know, because I like Tony better, I'm team Stark. I was hoping that it was going to be Steve. But
Yeah, I think she is. Yeah.
She inherited the whole.
Right.
Who?
She could be the
Pepper
new
Potts.
Iron Man.
Oh, Pepper Potts, yeah.
Yeah, and then.
Well, they've got Shuri now, though. Yeah, Wakanda's open.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of money, and they obviously have the technology. I mean, Sam's suit as a new Cap came from Wakanda. We know that Shuri is the one that hooked him up with that at the end of the day. So I think Shuri and Wakanda are probably going to step in at least a little bit as far as the technology and resources available to them.
Resources, but as far as the leadership,
it's
going to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Well, and that's going to break off into two factions, because you have Cap getting his technology from Wakanda, but you have Riri Williams and Spider-Man still getting technology from Stark.
Yeah.
Stark
so
Industries.
I think that depending upon what the situation,
you're going to have like your young Avengers getting the support from Stark Industries, and then the still kind of older that we still, you know, the grown-ups, you know, Sam and Bucky and all that they're probably going to be supported by Wakanda. So.
Gonna open up a can of worms, I think. It's a movie series that ended since last InConJunction, but Star Wars.
What time is it? We've got 20 minutes.
That's not enough time.
Yeah.
If you're more excited about the past in the Star Wars franchise being revisited than the future.
Yeah, when you've got something like The Mandalorian, which takes place pre-new trilogy, you're like,
and
I want more of this, please.
And it's so well done.
Yeah. Right.
And they can't match what the Mandalorian's providing.
Yeah.
And then you've got
although the cartoons are still holding their own. If you've watched the Bad Batch,
right?
It's really good.
I have not seen it.
But if you look, Lucasfilm did with the cartoons and with the Mandalorian the same thing that the MCU kind of did, and have the master showrunner overseeing the whole thing going on there.
Yeah.
As opposed to the movies where they didn't make that plan.
They farmed them out.
And so it resulted in that very disjointed feel that we ended up with, where things weren't matching up and the canon wasn't really straight. And I think Lucasfilm missed the mark on that after Disney took them over, because they weren't paying a lot of attention to that overall feel, which is one of the things the MCU does incredibly well, and one of the things that those cartoons for Star Wars are doing really, really well.
Is it Dave Filoni?
Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Jon Favreau. Okay.
But like I said,
Kathleen Kennedy, unfortunately, is not Kevin Feige or Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni.
No.
And so it's kind of one of those. It's like I've heard some complaints from people that they're bringing too much from the cartoon series into the Mandalorian. But I'm like, well, but it only makes sense because Dave Filoni is writing a lot of those episodes.
Oh yeah, I mean when they were like, we're getting live action Ahsoka Tano, I'm like, I am there.
Yes.
That
I still can't wait for that. Who's the actress? Rosie Perez?
Rosario
Dawson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But The Mandalorian, did that end?
No.
Definitively? No. It's got a third season.
Eventually, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's being set aside for a spin-off.
Right.
With another Mandalorian.
Why is it that big houses can either do TV really well?
Ooh, that sounds like
that sounds fun and loaded at the same time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we started with Supernatural and it just went from there.
Oh boy.
I had a feeling Supernatural was going to be either the main
I'm sure Supernatural
one or...
is pretty heated.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an interesting discussion, especially with Supernatural, which if you've listened to our episode talking about the end of Supernatural, you know that the series finale was quite divisive for a lot of people. Yeah, it's unfortunate that things happened the way they did because of the pandemic. So it's kind of hard to really put a lot of fault on people because of that, because it was a very unfortunate situation. And we did talk about Prodigal Son too. There's a couple of people in the audience that are like, oh yeah. So we're like, speculating on the ending of that and what everything meant. So, but yeah, once again, different opinions all over the place, but everybody was respectful, which I can totally.
That's good.
I'm totally appreciative, especially when you're getting into things like series finales. So, yeah. So, but that was my last panel for the entire weekend, and then I was just at my table for the rest of the day. I wandered the vendor hall a few times, to keep the legs stretched and that sort of thing. But for the most part, if I was not at a panel, I was at my table, unless I was going to the bathroom. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. And I saw several familiar faces. Tony and Liz were actually volunteering as staff for the weekend. So Tony was helping with AV, and then Liz was just kind of being a gopher, helping with some of the guests of honor that were there. Unfortunately, I missed all the presentations by the guests of honor, because if either I was in a panel that I was on, or if I was at my table, I didn't want to leave the table any more than I was already missing being at the table. Thankfully, InConJunction, on top of having like the program book, they had just like a sheets printed out, just like legal size paper with just like a grid copy of the schedule. And so I just went in and highlighted all the panels that I was on and put attached a note to it. I'm like, am I not at my table? Chances are I'm at a panel. Check the schedule. Mine are highlighted. So, and I even had one person that was like, yeah, I came by and you weren't here, but I saw I saw you were in a panel, so I thought I'd come back later. I'm like, that's why I did that. So I'm glad that that's the thing that they offer. So, because in past years, yeah, that too. In past years, like I've made my own printout. I didn't do that this year. I made a graphic with my personal panel schedule that I posted on social media, and then realized after I was already there that I'd actually forgotten one of the panels on said graphics. So,
whoops. Oopsies.
So sorry. Sorry about that. Again, I should not be doing 8 panels in one weekend. I will try to dial it back next year. But yeah, overall, I had a good time. Like I said, a small, not, really spread out all over the place, like at the convention center, small footprint, small number of people attending, and not a super packed, schedule. It's not the Gen Con program book. Definitely the best way to get back into the swing of doing conventions. Even talking to some of the other vendors that are like, we were talking about like Gen Con coming up, because they do Gen Con too. Some of the game, like independent game people, developers and authors and stuff, and they were like, if we'd had to do like Gen Con first, it would have really sucked. if that was like the first thing you had to, first convention back. I'm like, yeah, that really would have sucked. So we're going to work our way up to Gen Con. So we'll see. We'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, I think considering the circumstances, I think InConJunction did a great job. Melissa as the chair, she did a great job. I even said that to her on Twitter, and she's like thanks, but it's all about the volunteers. I'm like, well, yeah, obviously a lot of these events are run by volunteers. The people that help do things like running audiovisual and running the registration booth and that sort of thing are on a volunteer basis. But somebody has to keep somebody has to be in charge at the very top, and it was Melissa this year, and I think all things considering she did a great job. Any issues I had, I think, were mostly with like some of the signage and kind of the flow of the floor in the vendor hall. Not so much like, I understand the need for the distancing and everything, but I think they could have tweaked some things as far as flow of traffic and still had the social distancing that was needed. Hopefully next year going forward, that won't necessarily be an issue. We won't need the 6 feet in between everybody's tables. But I really don't have any complaints, and I was excuse me. I've talked myself. My throat is like, I'm done. Stop talking. Try to stay hydrated. My throat is like, stop talking. You did 8 panels. Stop talking. Anyway, I'm happy. I was just happy to be there. It was nice to see familiar faces that I have literally not seen in very, very long time. And just kind of get back in that geek bubble, You feed off of the energy of the other people. You get into something like that MCU panel, and you're just like, can we just be here like forever and talk about this? I was happy that I could be there and participate and help support the event. I look forward to next year. Once again, first weekend of July at the Marriott at 21st and Shadeland in Indianapolis, right off of the interstate. So kind of hard to miss. So next up, PopCon, which is a whole other ball of wax. It's still not Gen Con sized, so we're working our way up. We've had our appetizer, and now we're going to work on to the salad portion, and then Gen Con is going to be like the full meal, like the buffet. So InConJunction is like tapas, where it's just like finger foods. PopCon is just like a reasonable meal, salad, reasonable size entree, maybe a dessert. Gen Con is the full buffet. We're not quite ready for that yet.
People will say, looking forward to should I go back for seconds or not?
Exactly. Exactly. So, but I'll worry about that when September rolls around. All right. Well, if any of our listeners have dipped their toe back in the convention waters, they want to give their 2 cents on what their experience has been like, you can send us an email email address is fiveishfangirls@gmail.com, or you can connect with us on any of our other social medias, which the links to all of those are on our website, which is the fiveishfangirls.com. And of course, podcasts can be found pretty much on any app platform that allows you to get podcasts. There's also the link to the book club, our Traveling the Vortex Doctor Who book club, so you can go join in the conversations with that, in the poll, if there happens to be one at the moment. If you would like to financially support us, there's a number of ways you could do that, including Patreon, our Audible affiliate link, our Amazon affiliate link, our Redbubble merch shop, and of course, there is Patreon also for Gold Standard and for Southgate Media Group as a whole. So any of those will support some pretty amazing podcasts, if I do say so myself. I might be a little biased because, I know these people, but
Let's say you either been on, part of it, on them, or you know the people.
Exactly.
In some way.
Exactly. So when we say the Southgate Media Group family of podcasts, we mean that. The family part. So
yes.
So there is that, and as far as I know, I'm not doing any panels at PopCon this weekend. I didn't submit anything. I didn't submit anything, and and as far as I know, nobody's volunteered me for anything. So I believe the podcast indie group / Creative Zombie Studios is going to have a booth like we do most every year, where we just kind of come and hang out. So me and Brandon and other people that are part of the group and podcast, or part of that group, you can usually find us there. The return of Booth Mom, hopefully.
Yes, I was just about to say.
I just don't know where that booth is located yet, because they've not released a booth list. So once I know that, I guess I will post it on social media. I might not know until I show up on Friday. So I just may show up and be handed a program book, and I'm just gonna have to reference that to figure out where the heck I'm going. So we'll see. I know the elves over at PopCon are working very, very, very hard to get everything. That I do not envy the situation that they are in at the moment. So the last minute things that happen with conventions, I'm sure, are enough. And then they're also having to deal with the constantly changing guidelines as far as like social distancing, who needs to wear a mask, who doesn't, because like Marion County, where the convention center is located, like has their rules. The governor has his own set of rules that he's given for just the state. But then he's like, counties and or businesses can override those if they feel necessary. So then the convention center has their own set of rules.
Oh boy.
So the only thing I can tell you is PopCon has
Talk
said
about a headache.
The only thing that I know for sure is PopCon has said that their rules will not be any more strict than what the convention center's rules are. So, but those are still changing. Even as of like in the last couple of days, the convention center has updated their rules and stuff. So,
oh my goodness!
Continuously in flux, in motion.
Keep wash your hands. Wash your hands. Keep watching the website. Carry a mask on you, even if you're vaccinated, just in case. So. I am fully vaccinated, and in general, most everywhere is if you're fully vaccinated, you don't necessarily have to wear a mask, but I always have one on me just in case.
Yeah, that's how I have. I always have one like in my purse.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just become part of the stuff that goes in my bag when I leave the house. It's like wallet, keys, phone, chapstick, mask. So,
and hand sanitizer.
And hand sanitizer, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah. Just keep watching if you're going to PopCon, just keep watching the social medias and as they post updates. So, but until then, I'm gonna hopefully stop talking. At least until I have to record Gold Standard on Thursdays. So we'll be back next week with my recap from PopCon. Assuming I have a voice, and then we will be doing Black Widow the week after that to give everybody time to see it either at their theater or through Disney Plus, however you decide to do it. But I know because of everything that's going on, not everybody's able to get to the movie theater right away. So we're going to give you a little time to go see Black Widow before we do our recap of it and spoil it completely. You have been warned. And you have your homework, I guess.
Yes.
So with that, I'm going to shut up so we can sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Troy saying good night.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Note to self, booth mom, pack throat lozenges.
You have been listening to the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at thefiveishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/FiveishFangirlsPodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Fiveish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/FiveishFangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/FiveishFangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.